Imagine a small town nestled in the French mountains, a place where the houses huddle together, almost as if they're seeking warmth, against this vast brooding presence of the forest that surrounds them. A forest that seems to hold its breath, a place of deep shadows and ancient secrets. And somewhere hidden within that emerald labyrinth lies a lake, a man-made lake, perfectly still, reflecting the sky like a shard of fallen heaven. It's a story about a young woman named Bella, an 18-year-old college student who knew this forest as intimately as the lines on her own hand. She'd grown up exploring its trails with her family, picnicking by the lake, swimming in its cool, clear water. For Bella, this forest was a sanctuary, a place where she could shed the anxieties of everyday life and just be. This forest held only good memories, a sense of peace and belonging. Until, of course, it didn't. It was June 2019, early summer, and Bella had just come home for a break. After finishing her first year of college, eager to reconnect with her sanctuary, she headed straight for the lake. It was a familiar route, one she'd taken countless times before. She parked at an unmarked spot on the shoulder of the road and stepped into the woods. She follows a barely there animal trail that runs parallel to a small, gurgling stream. The air is heavy with the scent of pine needles and damp earth, the sunlight filtering through the canopy in dappled patches. It's the kind of day that makes you want to breathe deep and just be present. But as Bella walks, there's a shift in the atmosphere, a subtle change, almost imperceptible at first, a feeling of being watched. And then she hears it, a single, clear chime. A bell. It rings out, sharp and metallic, then fades into the silence. Bella stops, her heart beating a little faster. She listens intently, but there's nothing but the rustle of leaves and the gurgling of the stream. She chalks it up to her imagination, the play of light and shadow on her nerves. But as she continues walking, it happens again. The bell. This time, it's a series of rings, sporadic, echoing through the trees, loud, too loud to be a bird or an animal's caller. And for Bella, this unexpected sound shatters the peacefulness of her sanctuary. It introduces a discordant note into the symphony of the forest. It makes her realize that she's not alone. Someone or something is out there, hidden amongst the trees. Intrigued, but not yet afraid, Bella continues towards the sound. The bell chimes intermittently, leading her deeper into the woods. And then, just as abruptly as it began, the ringing stops. Silence descends. Heavier this time, pregnant with unseen possibilities. A little further on, she comes across something even more unsettling. Lying by the side of the trail, she finds a headless beaver. The body is fresh, the blood still glistening in the dappled sunlight. But what strikes Bella most is the precision of the cut. It's clean, almost surgical, as if done with a razor-sharp blade. There are no signs of a struggle, no claw marks, no indication of a predator, just a chillingly efficient kill. It's a stark contrast to the natural beauty that surrounds her, a brutal act of violence that seems to mock the tranquility of her sanctuary. And as she stands there, staring at the headless creature, she can't help but think back to the bell. The fact that it led her here, to this macabre discovery. And for Bella, it's a turning point. The innocence of her childhood memories starts to crumble, replaced by this gnawing sense of unease. She finishes her hike to the lake, but the beauty of the place is lost on her now. The silence is no longer peaceful, but oppressive. Filled with unseen eyes, she doesn't linger. She retraces her steps, her senses on high alert, scanning the shadows, listening for the slightest sound. Every snapping twig, every rustle of leaves makes her jump. A week later, Bella decides to try again. She wants to reclaim that sense of peace, to prove to herself that the forest is still her sanctuary. It's late afternoon when she sets off. Knowing that sunset is around 9 p.m., she plans to make it a quick visit. Just an hour or so by the lake to watch the light fade and breathe in the familiar air. But as she's jogging along that same stream, she senses a change in the atmosphere. This time, it's not subtle. The sky, which had been clear just moments ago, is now darkening rapidly. Thunder rumbles in the distance, and fat raindrops begin to fall, splattering on the leaves above her. By the time she passes the spot where she found that beaver carcass, still lying there, a stark reminder of the previous week's encounter, it's a full-blown downpour. She reaches the river that feeds into the lake and checks her watch. It's after 8 p.m. She knows that even if she turns back now, she'll be navigating part of the forest in the dark. Bella's caught in this internal struggle. Her desire to reach the lake, to reclaim that sense of normalcy, versus this increasingly ominous atmosphere. But the rain is coming down harder now, the wind whipping through the trees, and that fading light is making those familiar paths treacherous. She makes the difficult decision to turn back. But as Bella's walking back, head down, focused on her footing and the worsening visibility, she feels something abruptly hit her in the head. A heavy, wet thud. She stumbles, heart pounding, and looks up. It's the beaver, but it's not on the ground anymore. It's hanging from a tree branch, suspended in front of her like some macabre ornament. And its head. It's been stitched back onto its body, but not in the right place. It's been sewn onto its front paws, staring at her with vacant, beady eyes. The sight of it, the sheer grotesqueness of it, sends a wave of nausea through her. But what hits her even harder is the chilling realization. Someone did this in the last 30 minutes while she was making her way to the river. They are very close. Panic sets in. She senses movement behind her, just beyond the periphery of her vision. But she's too afraid to look. She walks faster, then breaks into a run, her heart pounding against her ribs, the feeling of being hunted intensifying with every step. The darkness is closing in too, the shadows deepening with the approaching night. The rain is relentless, blurring her vision, making that forest floor slick and treacherous. She stumbles, falls, scrambles back to her feet, her lungs burning, her legs screaming in protest. But she doesn't stop running. She can't stop running. Out of breath, terrified, she finally manages to call her father. She can barely speak, just sobs, gasps for air. She begs him to meet her at the spot where the animal trail diverges from the stream, the only landmark she can think of in her panicked state. She manages to get out that someone is chasing her, that she's seen the beaver again. And her parents, hearing the terror in her voice, don't hesitate. They jump in their car and race to her aid. Their own fear mirroring hers. They know something is terribly wrong and they're racing against time. Meanwhile, Bella's running out of energy. She can't keep going much longer. She stumbles again, falls to her knees, the mud soaking through her clothes, and that's when she hears it. The bell. It's back. And it's closer this time, echoing to the trees, each clang a hammer blow against her terror, sticks snapping, heavy footsteps. She's being pursued. She knows she has to face whatever's behind her. She can't run anymore. In a clearing, illuminated by a sliver of moonlight that's piercing through the storm clouds, a figure emerges from the trees. A tall, dark figure. And with every step it takes, the bell clangs. The sight of it, the sound of the bell, it snaps her out of her terror-induced paralysis. Adrenaline surges through her again, and she takes off running. This time towards that meeting point, where her parents are heading. She screams, trying to bluff that the police are nearby, hoping to scare whatever it is away. But the bell just keeps getting closer. The sounds of pursuit are relentless. The bell, the snapping twigs, the heavy footsteps, they're closing in. And just when she thinks she's done for, she hears a voice calling her name. It's her father. He had heard her screams and the bell through the phone and couldn't wait at the meeting point. He ran ahead, desperate to find her. Their reunion is a moment of pure relief, a collision of fear and love in the heart of the storm. But they're not out of danger yet. Her father scoops her up, her legs collapsing beneath her, and they flee the woods together. Back in the car as they speed away, they're all crying, trying to process what just happened. The terror, the relief, the lingering fear that clings to them, like the scent of damp earth and pine needles. They go straight to the police station, where Bella files a report. Her parents, out of precaution, take her to the hospital, but thankfully she's physically unharmed. The next morning, police search the area where Bella described that encounter, but they find no trace of the figure. Her handbag, which she dropped while running, is gone. The beaver, both the carcass and the head, vanished. But there is one strange clue. A little way off the stream, tucked under a rock, they find a neatly folded t-shirt. No one can explain it. It adds another layer of mystery to the whole thing. Officially, the police speculate that Bella might have encountered someone living in the woods, perhaps mentally unstable, who felt threatened and tried to scare her off. She's convinced that she was in mortal danger. And the bell. It hangs over the whole experience like a chilling echo. It becomes a symbol, a reminder of the unknown, the unexplainable. And the woods, once her sanctuary, now hold a very different meaning, and the mystery remains. There have been no other reported sightings. But then again, almost no one ventures into those woods anymore, except Bella and her family. And they don't go there anymore either. What do you think was out there in those woods with Bella? Was it a disturbed individual, as the police suggested? Or something more primal, something that defies our understanding of the natural world? Sometimes those mysteries are best left unsolved. The not knowing, the uncertainty, can be far more terrifying than any explanation we could come up with. A reminder that we are not the sole masters of this world, that there are forces beyond our comprehension lurking just beyond the edges of our carefully constructed reality. Till next time,
Stay curious, and maybe listen closely to the sounds of the forest. You never know what you might hear.